up, YouTube? I am your host, Mediocre tutorials and reviews. Back in here with one more video. Guys, you're looking at the thumbnail of the video, you're looking at the title of the video. You already know what time it is. It is time to get active. Title of today's video, man sues wife after doctors reveal he is not the father of his three, not one, not two, three sons because he's infertile. All right. I got really nothing else to say before we get started with this besides, why is paternity testing not mandatory? It makes utterly no sense to me. But from a fiscal perspective, I understand why. Without further ado.
Now, a man who discovered after being diagnosed with the life-limiting illness cystic fibrosis that he couldn't be the father of his three sons because the condition causes lifelong infertility has told this programme the news left him feeling suicidal. Doctors revealed in 2016 that Richard Mason couldn't be the dad to the children who are now 19 and 23. Richard sued his wife of 20 years, Kate, and they recently reached a settlement of £250,000, with her admitting she'd had an affair while the couple had been married. Well, we spoke to Richard and his current partner, Emma.
When he said to me, "You've got cystic fibrosis," I immediately thought, oh my God, my sister died of that at 29. And her death was very hard for me because with cystic fibrosis, you slowly suffocate on your own phlegm. And it took her 2 years to eventually waiting for a heart and lung transplant. And then she died on the operating theatre. So immediately I was just very saddened by that. But then when the discussion then turned to fertility, and he said, look, yourself and Emma, you know, you're going to have difficulty having children because you are, as a man with cystic fibrosis, infertile. It was suddenly like being hit by a sledgehammer. I just went, oh my God. You know, you
Jesus.
Suddenly realise that children aren't yours. So I said, well,
immediately you knew the significance of what he just said to you?
Yeah.
yes.
Both of you?
There were medical experts in the room, and, you know, it's impossible without IVF for a man with cystic fibrosis to have a baby.
So then I said, well, you must have the diagnosis wrong because I've already got three boys. But I sort of was like clutching at straws there. So after that, it became a complete blur for me because it was almost like, you know, I don't know if you've ever hit your head really, really hard and it's like a ringing and you just, you can't see anything that's going on around you. You can't think of anything that's going on around you. It's almost like you just have this ringing in your ears, and it's all the implications of everything as a result of that start, you know, flashing through your mind.
Right.
Like, what kind of questions are you then immediately asking yourself?
Can you guys just fathom 3 kids for 20 plus years? You have raised them as if they are your own. All of the first talking, the first walks, the first day at school, the graduations, right? The bumps, the scrapes, everything, the tutelage, the education that you give them, to find out when they are adults and almost adults that they do not share genetics with you, and that you've been raising another man's kid because your significant other is a piece of shit. I have no idea what he found. I mean, he was trying to explain it. There's been unique cases in my life where I've been hit with news and it felt like, what is going on? And like everything was kind of slow motion and everything like that. He describes it like a ringing in his ear. And I think there's some movie scenes where like someone gets hit with like a concussion grenade and there's like that high pitch noise and everything's kind of slowed down for a quick second. But just imagine, okay, not only all just that, but then suing this savage terrorist for what she has done and taken from you throughout the length of your life and getting $250,000 out of that. Is that supposed to substantiate the pain, the anger, the torment, the post-traumatic stress that this man has received, now knowing that those children aren't his. And I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I think the 250,000 is probably like an average estimate to raise kids with whatever his, you know, economic background is. Maybe they figured from a mathematical perspective that equates about average of what he's owed for raising someone else's child. But the heartache, the therapy, I mean, I don't even know if you could quite put a dollar amount on it. I'm also interested to know how does his future with the children, right? Like, because after 20 years, I mean, those are your family members, you know, not by blood, but those are your children, you know, at the end of the day. Like, you know, you were a daddy to them, right? But you weren't the biological father. You see what I'm saying? So I'm interested to know his future with him, but maybe we'll find that out. Let's keep going.
Just wanted to go straight to phone Kate, his ex-wife, say, Kate, spare me the dignity. Just tell me the truth. Was there anyone else?
When I'd managed to compose myself, it was about an hour later, I sent her a text and I said, look, this text has been in the press, but it was actually repeated verbatim from what I sent to her, and it's still on my phone now. I said to her, look, I've just been diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. I'm not expecting you to be sympathetic about that because she's a very hard person. And but the reason I'm telling you is that the boys are not likely to have been fathered by me. Now, obviously, there's something's gone on. And if you are honest about it with me, I don't intend to sue you. And you can decide how you want to tell the boys. If you want me to be there at the same time, that's fine. But if you lie to me, then I will take action, and I'll decide how I'm telling the boys. And the immediate response I got back was, I am sympathetic, but whatever science says, those boys will always be yours.
Wow.
Those boys will always be yours.
Which was
It's slightly different than saying you are definitely the dad. When you were diagnosed, your sons were 21 and the twins were 17, I think.
Yes.
When your then wife was pregnant on those occasions, did you ever suspect, have any inkling, ever think, oh, that's a bit odd, at the time of the pregnancy, through the birth, afterwards?
There was one or two occasions that after the boys were born, I thought that they didn't resemble me as much as, you know, you'd imagine that boys would.
They didn't look like you?
Well, they've got darker eyes than me. I'd have almost no body hair, and the boys have got very dark hairs on their legs and things like that. But around the time that she got pregnant, we'd been having unprotected sex for 7 years. Nothing had happened. Now, she always said to me, I have a tilted womb. I don't know what that is, but it means that it's harder for a woman to get pregnant. So we'd always thought it was her. And we'd gone for fertility treatment, or to see the GP to start the fertility process. And the GP said, well, the first thing that has to happen is you have to be tested, Mr. Mason, and then we test your wife. Now, it's likely to be 3 occasions of IVF that you're going to need. They're about £5,000 a time, so it's £15,000.
So he never got it.
But after that, there's a good chance you will have a baby. So when we went home, we both were working at Barclays at the time, and she said, look, you know, we've got our careers. We're both, I mean, yuppies was like in the 80s, you know, really like popular term for young people who were doing well in their careers. She said, we're both yuppies, let's just carry on with our careers and see how it goes. A few months later, she was pregnant. So I thought, oh my God, that's weird, because, you know, you often hear of people going for treatment and then suddenly naturally get pregnant. And she said, oh, it's just one of those things.
Wow.
So I did feel a little bit like that's a surprise, you know, because we go for to start the IVF, then decide not to, and she gets pregnant.
This terrorist said, regardless of science, you will always be the daddy. Just think of, again, that she gets pregnant, knowing that she's having unprotected sex with her husband and unprotected sex with whoever this other guy is. pregnant, gives birth, and then again pregnant, gives birth, and then again pregnant and gives birth. How do you live with yourself, right, knowing that what it is that you're doing and this other dude is splashing off in you, even after having kid after kid after kid? Like, how do you live with yourself? How do you have the decency to say, regardless of science, the kid will always be yours? Right? Like, it's so unfathomable to me that people like this exist among us. Oh, man. All right, let's keep going.
I mean, you've described the turmoil. You've described it feeling like you were hit with a sledgehammer. Did you consider taking your own life?
Many times.
Yeah.
The consultant said to me once, cystic fibrosis kicks in, and I'm one of the oldest people in the UK with cystic fibrosis, and probably the oldest person ever that I know of to be diagnosed with it.
The average death is 41, and most children die of it a lot younger, like a sister as well, at 29.
So you know that you've not got a particularly pleasant future.
Look, hold up, just real quick. Look at the new significant other just being a writer. Just holding his hand, knowing that he has a death sentence, knowing all of the bullshit that he went through. You know, shout out to her. Shout out to her for the support. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to you, mama, for the support. It's good to see stuff like that as well, especially in a video like this where we go over so much negativity within one human being, is to see that he was able to find, you know, a level and degree of happiness after that. Let's keep going.
Sure.
How did the knowledge then of discovering that your boys couldn't be yours affect the way you felt towards them, if
Good
at all?
question.
They're still my boys, and I still think of them as my sons now. So
Okay.
I have been their dad.
Do you love them as much?
You can't not love somebody simply because, in fact, you know, even you know, if somebody committed some sort of offence against you, if the boys had done something wrong, I'd still love them. You know, but they've done absolutely nothing wrong. They're completely innocent as well. They are the victim, like I
They're
am.
victims, yeah.
So, of course, yeah, my arms are still open for them, and I would dearly love them to, you know, to come back into my life.
Well, two of them, I understand, aren't in your life because they are cross that you sued your ex-wife, Kate.
What?
It's paternity fraud. You said you won this court case, this settlement of £250,000 from your
What?
wife. Why would you risk your relationship with your boys when you say you are their dad, you love them as much, by going ahead with that legal action?
I always brought my boys up to be honest, stand up to bullies, never tell lies. All the time, I was divorced from her for 10 years, and all the time they were with me, all the weekends that they were round at my house, I used to say to them, look, do not keep any secrets from your mum. Be open and honest with her. You know, anything I do, anything I say, I don't mind your mum knowing about it, because I want an open, honest relationship with them. So
I'm so confused. You know, only thing I could think of is that the boys, the two that don't bang with him anymore, are underneath the tutelage of the manipulative ass woman, the manipulative ass mother. Because I'm trying to think of it from my own perspective. Like, let's say I found out that my father was not biologically mine and that he sued my mother. I'd be like, yeah, go ahead. Like, I was like, sue away. And I would assume that the boys are probably also upset if they live with the mother, because if it financially impacts the mother, it financially impacts the boys. You see what I'm saying? But I don't. So the thing is that it seems as though he doesn't want the relationship between the boys to change, but because they've been distant or divorced for 10 plus years, the relationship wasn't already strong of what it was. So the boys take offense to him suing, irrespective of right from wrong. Like, she lied and she robbed him. That's fraud. Paternity. This is legit, straight up paternity fraud. Okay. And if it wasn't for the cystic fibrosis, he would have never have known. They would have never have found out. There would never have been a paternity test, because he moved on. He's in the next relationship. But this is just a fluke that had happened, and he was able to get the truth that way. So it begs the question, how many men are walking around in similar situations? Because paternity testing is not required. This is absolutely wrong and absolutely pathetic of that woman. Let's keep going.
I brought them up to be open, honest, stand up to what you think is right. Somebody committed a 21-year fraud against
but not
me.
them.
Facts.
Now you've lost two of them. They're not in your
But
life.
the point is, how do I allow somebody who's committed something like that against me, my ex-wife, to just go off scot-free? Because there are many times...
Because the risk is you lose two of them, and that's what's happened.
But they're grown men.
Yeah.
They're grown men. They understand that I have to take action against it.
In families, when there's been tragedy or anything like this, history tends to repeat itself through generations. And Richard wants to ensure that those boys don't think this is normal behaviour.
It's not.
She was completely denying that I wasn't the biological father. So up until the court case only a few weeks ago, she was still saying, even with DNA evidence, I'm sorry, the DNA evidence must be flawed.
And the court case
You're the
has
biological
absolutely
father.
settled that, yeah.
So, if
The
I am the
indignation.
biological father, those boys all have a risk of having cystic fibrosis. They all need to tell their insurance companies. They need to tell their potential
point.
partners. Their children might have cystic fibrosis. I wouldn't even be allowed to meet them because people with cystic fibrosis cannot meet other people with cystic fibrosis because they cross-infect.
Right.
So by going via my solicitor, finally, she then, a few weeks ago, said, actually, I accept. You're not the biological father. The boys have got no chance of having cystic fibrosis from me. I can meet them now, and they're free of knowing that they've got a potential genetic disease.
Understood.
Wow.
Do you know who the father is?
I've no idea.
Why have you offered a £5,000 rewards to find out?
I was
What?
toying with that as a strategy because what I feel like is 2/5 of my life, 20 odd years of my life, have been a complete lie. The person I thought I was, I'm not. The relationship I had with the boys is not the same as I thought it was. A wife that I thought was loyal, but I had to divorce because we didn't get on, was not. So what I want to do is sit down with this guy and say, were you there in their life? When I was watching them play football, were you there? Did you buy them Christmas presents? How did you
I don't think he should do this.
deal with the first pregnancy? You know, did you know about the pregnancies? Were you there for the second pregnancy?
You want to meet him and you want to ask
Yeah,
those
you want to
questions?
find out what happened. It's almost
closure.
like you've been in a coma for 20 years and you wake up and you think, God, this guy is a significant participant in my life that I have never met.
Okay.
And I have a desire
Maybe.
to do that before I die.
Do you know when that will be?
My lungs have deteriorated about 15% in 2 years. And that level of deterioration, maybe 6 to 10 years.
Thank you very much for coming on the programme.
All right. This is incredible. I didn't know this was getting ready to go here. You know, to know that, you know, the kids are angry, don't want to see him, and he's going to be dying in a couple of few short years. It sounds like it'd be a 5 to 10 year kind of thing. Hopefully the children can live to grow out of the manipulative sickness that the mother has put them up under, right? To step outside of right and wrong and understand why the father did that, why the father chose to pursue legal action to punish her, to at least get some of those years back, 2/5 of his life back from a monetary perspective. I don't think that it's a good idea to try to contact the other father. You don't know what the relationship was at that time. You don't even know if the man even knew that she had gotten pregnant. Maybe she just decided to avoid him during the times that she was pregnant and having a kid. But I don't know, because you would see remnants of belly, like you would see remnants of stretch marks, you would see remnants of there was a child that was born out of here. So I take all that back. So the guy had to have known, but maybe it wasn't the same guy. Maybe it was different guys. Maybe she was that much of a slower that she just kept going from new dude to new dude or something like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I think from a closure perspective, I don't think that I think he's trying to get closure out of something that he shouldn't. He's trying to get blood out of rock, and he absolutely shouldn't. I think he should try to live the remainder and the components of his life as ultimately as what happily is what he can with his new family, you know, and his new supportive significant other. This one's a really tough one because there's really no recourse out of all of this. You know, I do hope that the two children come out of the hypnosis and can forgive him for his choice within that. But holy moly. Holy moly. All right. But guess what? Would have all been avoided if paternity testing was required. It would have all been avoided at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying, guys? If you have questions, go and get yourself a little bit of a test, because paternity fraud is a real thing. It's a real thing. Okay. All the ladies that's watching this channel, you got a younger brother, older brother, what have you, and you kind of looking at the situation, and maybe they're blinded by the supple, viscous innards that engorge in their life. Put a little bug in their ear. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you don't want to ruin happy situations, but what hurts to just get the test and to just check. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns. God already know what to do. Mediocre tutorials and reviews at gmail.com. Guys, feel free to hit me up. This one was a tough one. I gotta go take a walk after this one and go drink some water. You know what I'm saying? I might do some stretching back in here. Just release the toxins from my body after watching some shit like that. Until next time, YouTube. Peace.
Hood booga, hood booga, hood booga, goodbye. Hood booga, hood booga.